Welcome to the Learning League podcast. I'm your host, Cheryl Powell, owner of Learn to Engage. My guest today is Jesston Williams, founder of Tangelic, an organization turning clean energy ideas into real solutions for communities. Welcome, Jesston.
Hello, Cheryl. Thank you so much for having me on your show today. I appreciate it. Good to see you.
It is my pleasure. For those of you who may not know you, why don't you give us a little introduction about you and your work at Tangelic?
Absolutely. So I serve as the executive director of Tangelic, and I have more than 20 years of leadership experience in various industries. I spent a little time in the laboratory industry, the health industry, and most recently the finance industry as well. And today, my focus is on building partnerships as well as strengthening organizational execution. And as you mentioned, advancing clean energy and sustainability development initiatives across Africa. And lastly, regarding Tangelic, Tangelic is a US-based nonprofit. And what we do is work at the intersection of clean energy, climate resilience, and inclusive economic development. Our goal is simple, is to place technologies in place in underserved communities, empower those communities, and all of our projects have a strong gender focus as well. So we want to help build systems that improve health, create economic opportunity, strengthen local ownership, and also remain viable or sustainable over time. With that said, we do have our flagship initiative, which is Sunrise Spectrum, and we are currently implementing it on the ground in Ghana. We are very fortunate to deploy our initiative, Sunrise Spectrum, in June, just last month, where we distributed 150 clean cook stoves to communities in need. And that was in the Upper West region of Ghana.
Wow, that is fascinating. How long has that been going on? How many years?
Well, we started operations in late 2023, and it's been a long time coming for our first deployment, which was just last month in June. So as you can imagine, it took time to build a strong team. We all work remotely. I have team members on several different continents. And yeah, it's been a long time coming, and we deployed, like I said, in June, phase 150 clean cook stoves, and we shall scale to phase 2, 3, and 4, where we will impact more than 230,000 homes in West Africa, Ghana alone, I should say.
That is a huge initiative, and I'm sure it took a lot of resources. You talked about your team. What is the business challenge that you wanted to share with us today?
The main thing that comes to mind was how to create consistent accountability, and that would cross-distributed driven team, our team, and moving from, I would say, the planning stage into real world execution. So we had more than 20 people contributing across several continents, as I mentioned before, along with an in-country implementation partner, Green Change for Ghana, and a field personnel in Ghana as well. We have employees that live in the country. So obviously we have a talented team and a compelling mission. But what we discovered is that the systems that had helped us during the organization's early development simply weren't sufficient for deployment, right? So during that planning stage, a great deal could be handled through conversations, reminders, individual initiatives, etc. But once the deployment approached, and I'm talking, February, March, April of this year, every single task had its dependencies. So a delayed decision could affect funding, procurement, community engagement, field operations, or even data collection. So that was something we had to overcome. And with
that's touching on a lot of different areas.
Yeah. It just came down to delivering for the communities, right? That was the most important thing to solve these issues that we faced earlier this year, I should say. And we also need to keep our partners confidence with us. So
Yeah.
we didn't have a commitment problem. We had an operating system problem, but we fixed that.
Okay. Okay, so tell me about your approach.
Absolutely. Well, I would say before things improved, there was, I would say, too much important work that was lived inside these communities. Okay.
Hmm.
And let's say a task may have been discussed and everyone might agree that it was important, but the final owner deadline, etc., and even the escalation process was not always enough. So
Okay.
I think the biggest thing is a part of the approach was me myself just kind of rolling up my sleeves and being more hands on, if you will. And it definitely
Yeah.
came down to making sure that I had clear, concise communication with both internal and external partners. So
Right.
my responsibility was to stay closely connected and available at all times while still
Mm,
respecting the knowledge of those closest to the communities, especially our on the
okay.
ground partners. And, that sometimes meant beginning my day between 4 and 5 in the morning, but it also meant making
Mm,
sure our operating system did not depend entirely on whether I personally remember to follow up. So we moved from reactive reminders, if you will, to repeatable rhythm
yeah.
ownership as well as communication and escalation. Solid decision making is what it came down
Okay.
to.
I'm sure you had to do a lot more status status type, stand up meetings as well.
Yes, yeah. There were a lot of let's say last minute meetings where I would have to get on a Zoom call with
Yeah.
our team members or on the ground partners where something
Yeah.
would come up, as my technical team was um, working in the field and collecting data, etc. Something would come
Yeah.
up, so we would have to make a pivot and adjust accordingly. So there were some
Did you
surprises, but we managed and did
yeah.
well.
Did you ever have to go in person? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So my first trip to Ghana was in 2024. This is where I went on a fact-finding mission to identify the communities and our on-the-ground partner, and
Right.
met with many organizations. And Green for Change Ghana, without doubt, was the number one choice. So from there, my second trip there was to meet with different governmental ministries. Because I am not from Ghana and coming in as an outsider to help the people of the beautiful country of Ghana. I wanted to make sure that everything we did aligned with their mission in regards to climate sustainability and resilience. I didn't want to come in doing anything that would cause any issues towards their climate goals. And I had to ensure that what me and my team planned to do completely aligns and was completely acceptable by the Ghanaian government. And I will be returning as well later this year, as well as a couple trips next year planned to ensure that everything is going smoothly on the ground, especially as we scale to phase two. And I will also do another check-in with the various governmental ministries there, such as the Energy Commission and their Climate and Sustainability Ministry as well.
So as you worked through the challenge of accountability, what decisions or changes had the biggest impact on moving the project forward?
Wow, that is an excellent question. First thing that comes to mind would certainly be clear ownership, and with that, every significant deliverable needed to be accountable by each owner. Others could definitely contribute, but having a sole accountable owner for clear ownership was very important, and
Yeah.
that avoided shared ambiguity for sure. I would
Mm,
also say earlier escalation as well. Team members definitely needed to raise delays as well as capacity problems.
yes.
And we had to make a pivot to ensure that team members did that. So raising a problem early so it wouldn't result in a failure. We learned, or
Yeah.
had to kind of teach the team that remaining silent until it became an urgent issue created a very, very large risk. And
Maybe
lastly,
maybe because you were directly involved and they had those multiple check-ins per week, they felt that psychological safety, right? They felt safe enough now to bring up those problems early.
well said. I would definitely agree with that. Me being more or heavily involved, just having that
Mm,
leadership presence, I should say, during the time, definitely improved accountability for the team, and obviously that involved me asking questions as well as follow up questions and setting certain expectations for the team.
yeah, yeah. Anything else? I think I interrupted you. You were going to say something else about the impact.
No, that's about it. And I would also say
Okay.
empower local ownership as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Mm-hmm.
trusting our on the ground partner as well as our on the
Yeah.
ground team members, and not to
Yeah.
attempt to direct every field decision, but to make sure they involved everyone else as well as my leadership.
No micromanaging. Be honest,
No,
Justin.
I mean, I think from time to time, depending on the situation, it's necessary, but
Yeah.
for the most part, no. But sometimes it's necessary.
Was there any sign that you had where you knew that you were making progress? Did you have any signs
Did I have any signs that I knew that I was making progress? I tell you what.
with the team?
Well, things definitely began to flow smoother.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
team, early on, obviously there were a lot of questions, a lot of follow back, but
Yeah. Yeah.
once I had the ability to provide that leadership and empower them and let them know, hey, I'm definitely here, but I want you to also not be afraid to make a decision now that you know the expectation.
Yes.
And they were able to do that finally. They did a fine job.
Yeah. And any numbers that you could share that showed the improvement as far as how well the team and field partnerships were working? If
Absolutely.
you don't,
So,
that's fine.
well, I'll say this. Our initial goal was to have the clean cook stoves deployed by July, mid to late July. So we were actually
Right.
several weeks ahead of schedule when we were able to do that. On our end,
Wow.
obviously, there are other factors involved, such as the manufacturer, shipping, logistics come into a big play as well,
Yeah.
et cetera. But we were several weeks ahead of our deployment date. So I would say that was
Excellent.
the biggest factor.
Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing accomplishment, that whole deployment. And how many families got the stove?
Well, it was a 150 clean cook stoves, and that
Okay.
affected roughly close to 300 families.
Wow. And your team was how many people? Just I'm clarifying for the audience.
Well, we have a team on Tangelic of about 23, 24 team members, but the actual on the ground team in Ghana
Yeah. Yeah.
was two team members from Tangelic, and then Green
Okay.
for Change Ghana, I think they had about seven or eight people.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Amazing. Do you have any advice that you would give other leaders who may be facing a similar accountability challenge in their own organization?
I think that leaders would need to ask themselves three questions. The first one being, does every important deliverable have one clearly identified owner? That's
Mm,
very important.
yeah.
Secondly, can people raise a delay, block, or capacity problem early without fear? And that
Right.
just calls for knowing your team very well. And lastly, and this may be a tough one for some, but does leadership have
Okay.
enough visibility to help without taking over the work? And which was very important for
Yeah.
me to have that visibility, being that I'm based in the
Mm,
States and our project is in Ghana. And obviously, I became more involved, which included communication and helping where I could afar But
Yeah.
it's not my job to take it over. My job was to ensure that my team members were in place and had the proper
Yeah.
tools needed to make it happen.
Right. Right. That they had what they needed. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think your story, even though we're talking about accountability, this whole story really teaches a lot of lessons in how to manage remote, cross cultural distributed teams as well. Like you
Yeah.
touched on all of that as well. So there's a lot of lessons in this whole story. This initiative and what you're doing at Tangelic, it's so inspirational. Your experience really shows a strong vision that moves forward when leaders create the communication, trust, and accountability that their teams need to execute it. That's how I believe your vision is moving people forward. And I'm so glad that everybody is going to have a chance to hear this story. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Cheryl. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation and thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and before we wrap up, where can people learn more about you and the work that you do at Tangelic?
Absolutely. I would say the first place would be our website. That would be tangeliclife.com. And that is TANGELICLIFE.org, tangeliclife.org. We also are we have a presence on social media as well. So you can find us on X as well as Facebook. We're on TikTok
Mm,
and Instagram too. And we
and TikTok.
Yeah, and TikTok. Yeah, TikTok now is something a little newer for us. We just opened that
Right.
account a couple months ago. We kind of went back and
Okay.
forth about it, but we went ahead and did it. So
Yeah, yeah. That's well. Thank you, and thank my listeners. Thank you for tuning in to the Learning League podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you would like to hear more valuable conversations on learning and leadership. Thank you again. Now it's time to take it home. So here's what I want you to take home from my conversation with Jesston. A process that works for your team today may not work for them as the organization grows. Your projects become more complex or the stakes get higher. So, leaders shouldn't wait for missed deadlines and constant follow-ups to tell them something needs to change. Pay attention when decisions start taking longer or more people have to be involved to get the work done, or tasks begin depending heavily on one another. So those can be early signs that your team has outgrown its current way of working. This is where I recommend doing a quick performance check. Look at the new behaviors and skills the work now requires. Compare that with what your team was doing originally, okay? And then identify those gaps. Determine whether people need clearer processes, better tools, maybe a little coaching, or targeted learning. Growth changes the work, and sometimes your people need help growing with it. If your organization is changing and you're not sure whether your people are prepared for what comes next, Learn to Engage can help you identify those gaps and build a path forward. Until next time, bye.